Hey everyone, Liz here from the Nail Hub, and today I wanted to cover a very important topic, and that is HEMA. You might have seen articles throughout the news, you might have read about HEMA before, maybe you're becoming more HEMA conscious because of some of the marketing that you've seen throughout our industry. I wanted to go over a little bit of gel chemistry for you today, really explain what HEMA is, and also explain why it's such a big deal. Before we get started on actual HEMA, I wanted to explain a little bit about gel chemistry or even nail product chemistry for that matter. Me being a gel nail expert, I often always get into the gel nail world, but there's a lot of other nail products that are in our industry as well. Well, we derive acrylates, you may have heard this term before, we derive acrylates from acrylic acids. Within acrylates, we have several different types. We have regular acrylates, we have methacrylates, which you might have also heard once or twice, and we also have cyanoacrylates, just as another example of the type of nail products that we might come across that are in the acrylate world. Acrylates and methacrylates are usually the ones that we come across when we're talking about liquid and powder acrylic nails, and also you'll see them inside of UV cured gel nail products. You'll also see them inside of things like polygel, which I also consider to be kind of a hybrid between acrylic nails and gel nails, but you'll see ethyl methacrylate, hydroxy ethyl methacrylate, and some other ones in there, and really the core fundamental component of those are those acrylates or methacrylates. Cyanoacrylates I wanted to throw in here too because we also come across this word sometimes when we talk about nail glue. Super glue is also a derivative of a cyanoacrylate. Cyanoacrylates are adhesive type acrylates, and they're used in things like dip systems, wrap systems. Maybe you learned that back in nail school, or maybe you've come across things like silk wraps, fiber wraps, and obviously also the glue that we use to glue on nail tips. All of that is from the cyanoacrylate family. So as I mentioned, when we're talking about acrylates and methacrylates, this is where we start to see HEMA pop up. But there's other acrylates and methacrylates that are very common in our nail products. If we look at liquid that's used for liquid and powder nails, or acrylic nails if you want to call it that, you'll often see EMA, ethyl methacrylate, as the actual main component of that monomer liquid that you are using. Back in the day, it used to be more common to see MMA, which is methyl methacrylate. And if you're, savvy on the acrylic nail industry, you'll know that MMA has since been phased out and actually regulated because it's a really, really, really strong concrete-like adhesive. When we're talking about acrylic nails, it can actually cause a lot of damage to the nail, whereas we've swapped that out for EMA. For gels, you'll see things like HEMA, hydroxyethyl methacrylate, or HPMA, or even HEA, and you'll see those if you start looking at the labels on your polygels or on your gel nail products, or sometimes even depending on what type of hybrid product in between you might be working with. So what is a monomer, right? Sometimes we talk about these things as acrylates and sometimes we call them monomers. So I wanted to talk about what a monomer is. A monomer is a single repeating molecule that we can use to build these polymer chains. When we're dealing with nail products specifically, and this applies to all kinds of chemistry, but obviously here on the Nail Hub, we're more concerned about actual fingernail products. So these polymer chains are really what we are using to build these finished cured nails, whether it be acrylic nails or gel nails or polygel nails or whatever that might be. When we're talking about LNP or liquid and powder nails, that polymer powder is mixed with that monomer liquid, and that's how we actually dissolve that powder in the monomer. We create that gooey consistency and we create that polymerized product on the nail. When we're talking about UV cured products like gel nail polish and builder gels, the formula is already pre-mixed, and so we already have that product dissolved inside of that system, and we're using photoinitiators, which are sensitive to UV light, to create that chemical reaction that hardens the product. So that's why our lamps are so important when it comes to UV cured gel nail products. So you can see I actually broke down also a visual for you of what a monomer is versus a polymer. So a monomer mono equals one. So when you think about mono anything, it's just one. We can also have dimers, trimers, tetramers, and the list goes on and on. And we also have polymers. Poly meaning many. So we can have many monomers linked together, which creates our polymer. Now, what is an oligomer? Because if you've heard me talk about other gel nail brands like Light Elegance, for example, and even other companies that are on the market that do similar things, oligomers, oligo means few. So oligomers is actually a few monomers that we've put together. And the oligomer thing is a big deal when we're talking about gel nail products, and also what I'll talk about about HEMA in just a second, is because we're able to take those very, very small monomers and we're able to put them into pre-built chains that helps us with a lot of different things when we're talking about lowering the risk inherent in dealing with these kinds of reactive chemicals. All right, so what is HEMA? HEMA is just one example of a monomer that we use in nail products. And HEMA is really popular because it's great at promoting adhesion. Products that have a lot of HEMA in them, they tend to cure really quickly, and also they are great at adhering to the natural nail. So you'll usually see a lot of HEMA in products like base gels that are used to attach to the natural nail plate. What is HEMA and what is it made up of? So we take methacrylic acid, we add ethylene glycol, and we get HEMA, hydroxyethyl methacrylate. So you'll see HEMA usually listed as HEMA on a label, but sometimes you'll see hydroxyethyl methacrylate. It is the exact same thing. One is just the acronym. And I also included a little molecular diagram so you can see what HEMA looks like. So why is HEMA bad? Well, HEMA isn't necessarily inherently bad, but the way that it's being used in our nail industry, and also abused for that matter, is creating some big problems. It's being overused in formulas. HEMA, again, is great at promoting adhesion, and companies make a lot of money off of products that adhere well. We all know how frustrating it is to use a product that chips or peels off quickly. So HEMA has been increased in formulas to make sure that there's that foolproof adhesion on the nail. And it's also a cheap ingredient. HEMA is so prevalent and monomers are so inexpensive that it is now just the main component of almost any product that's out there. And it's used in extremely high quantities to promote all of those amazing benefits that we just talked about. The cheap formulas are also cutting corners. Photoinitiators, specifically when we're talking about UV cured gel nail products, photoinitiators are that main component that allow our gels to cure properly inside of our nail lamp. Photoinitiators are the UV sensitive portion of our gel formulas, and without the proper amount and the proper type of photoinitiators, our gels won't fully cure to safe levels, or they won't cure at all. Photoinitiators are expensive when it comes to ingredients, and so a lot of companies will just increase the monomer content to help drive that polymerization reaction. They'll cut down on the photoinitiators, and it creates a very reactive product, which I'll talk about in just a second. Lack of knowledge on the importance of nail lamps also makes the HEMA conversation 10 bazillion times worse. If our product isn't fully polymerized, and this also goes into liquid and powder as well, if we don't have that right ratio between liquid and powder, we can end up with a very soupy mess or a very dry bead that doesn't fully polymerize on the nail, and that can leave unpolymerized product inside of that acrylic. When we're talking about gel, where the formula and the mix ratio has been pre-figured out for us, the lamp is the pinnacle part of our system, and a lot of people don't want to invest in more expensive lamps, so they opt for cheaper options. They go for generic, and they think, oh, this is no big deal. I'll just get a $40 or $50 lamp, and that should cut it. Actually, when we're talking about the detail behind curing our UV gel nail products, or even our poly gels for that matter, if the lamp is not sufficiently curing our product, it can leave a ton of unreacted, unpolymerized monomer in our product, and that actually really exacerbates this whole HEMA and monomer conversation, because when we think the product has been cured on the nail, it actually hasn't been fully cured on the nail, and that can have long-term consequences. Higher monomer content in a formula also means it's more reactive. If we have more reactive sites inside of our gel formula, that means that there's more bonds that need to be formed, which means that we have to have that many more photoinitiators, which I just talked about most companies don't do. And also, it creates a lot of reaction when we are polymerizing it, which means more heat, more exothermic reactions, and all other kinds of things that are trade-offs to having more monomer. Usually, you can tell a very high monomer gel by how much it zings and zaps your nail. If your nail is on fire within 3 seconds of putting your hand in any lamp, usually that is a dead giveaway that you've got a ton of monomer in that product. HEMA is water soluble, so these monomers are actually able to leach out when we wash our hands. They also leach out when we go to file them or soak them off with acetone. And as we do this repeated process of removing and reapplying our gel and also wearing our gels for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, every time we go to shower, bathe, wash our hands, some of that undercured monomer can leach out of the quote unquote cured product. It can get onto our skin and our body absorbs it. And for that matter, HEMA, because it is a monomer and it is a very, very teeny tiny molecule, is that much easier to be absorbed into our bodies. Our immune system sees that absorption of monomer as an invader alert, and our immune system starts to go crazy. It starts to identify this almost like it would have, as if it were a virus, and it builds these lymphocytes that go and start attacking this monomer in our bloodstream. And that is where we get things like contact dermatitis, water blisters, itchy red fingers, splitting, peeling skin. Our nail plates start to lift from the nail bed. And the problem is that every time we get exposed to these monomers in our nail products, and every time they're absorbed into our body, even if it's by accident, our body starts to up the ante on that immune response. So you could be going several years without any allergic reaction that you can visibly see or experience, but that reaction inside of your body has been happening and the ante has been upped all this time that you've been exposed to it. So people who think that they haven't developed an allergy all of a sudden will. And HEMA is also a gateway allergen. So HEMA is usually one of the, because it's the most prevalent right now in a lot of our formulas, it's usually just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to acrylate allergies. And usually once you've developed an allergy to HEMA, you have already developed an allergy to several other acrylate ingredients, which makes it near impossible to find something that you won't be allergic to. So what do you do about this whole entire conversation? You'll start to see, this HEMA-free conversation happening. You'll start to see this becoming more and more of a discussion as allergies are on the rise. So what can you do about this? How can you play an important role in really heading this off at the pass? Get educated on gel chemistry and the importance of your lamp and your formulations. I cannot stress this enough. I just finished a really great full-on course that was geared around at-home users, but this is so important even for nail technicians. I'm going to be getting more into chemistry. I've already done a ton of amazing videos with people like Jim McConnell from Light Elegance on his Chemist Corner channel, and I'm always trying to put this information out there when it comes to my YouTube channel. So whether you're a client of a salon, you're someone who just likes to do your own nails at home, or you're a nail professional, I really encourage you to get educated about gel chemistry and about the importance of your lamps when it comes to gel nail formulas. And again, I'm harping on the gel stuff because it is something that I'm heavily involved in. The other thing too you can do is stop mixing and matching. Stop just grabbing things that you've heard about. Stop reaching for all different types of products and mixing them together. And most importantly, stop randomly grabbing nail lamps to try and cure your products cheaply. Random nail lamps are not actually tested to make sure that they fully or safely polymerize your product. And so by just reaching for some generic lamp to cheaply cure whatever other gels that you want to use because you're using several different systems, we need to really get ahead of this conversation and start looking at investing in high quality equipment, especially when it comes to our nail lamps, because again, if those aren't properly curing our product, it is totally exacerbating the problem. Consider trade-offs, right? Some of this stuff, might seem like Sanskrit to you when it comes to the chemistry portion, but there are some foolproof ways to see some trade-offs that you're making when it comes to gel formulas or any type of nail product formulas. One of the dead giveaways is if something literally adheres to the nail plate without any effort or knowledge whatsoever. If you don't even have to prep the nail plate and the stuff just adheres like concrete, that is usually a dead giveaway that a ton of monomer is being used to promote that adhesion. So that is something that you can use when it comes to just looking at the way something behaves. And there's definitely trade-offs we make when it comes to our product choices. Maybe you need to make a little bit more effort with the nail prep with other products, but at least you know that those products are safer and are less likely to cause allergies. Start reading SDS. SDS used to be called MSDS. SDS stands for Safety Data Sheet. And even if you don't understand all of the ingredients, things that you can look for are HEMA, HEA, or HPMA being listed first on the ingredient list, first, second, or third on the ingredient list. The way ingredient lists usually work for nail products, and even if it's printed on your bottle and you don't have an SDS, is that the first, second, and third ingredients are the ones that are in the highest quantities. So as a percentage of the formula, if HEMA is listed first, that means it is the main component of that formula. And also wanted to point out that anything that leads with a 2, which is di-HEMA, di-HEA, di-HPMA, that is basically the same thing. It's still a monomer structure, and it's still easily to be absorbed, and it's still very reactive in the formula. So those are easy dead giveaways to look for when you're looking for ingredients in your products. And the reason why I wanted to point out HEA and HPMA is because of this HEMA monomer free or HEMA free conversation that's starting to happen in our nail industry. A lot of companies are just decreasing the HEMA, but increasing things like HPMA, which is just as equally reactive and just as likely to cause an allergy. Okay, so just because you see HPMA or HEA doesn't mean that it's actually safer than a product that has a bunch of HEMA in it. Start asking questions. This is the other big thing that I really encourage you to do. Even if you don't necessarily know what questions you're asking, just start asking them. A company who cannot answer your questions or doesn't want to answer your questions or isn't available to answer your questions, again, huge red flags. So see if you have direct lines of communication to the places you're buying your product from. Do you know the companies that you're buying from? Are you able to talk to the people that are formulating these products? Are you able to get direct lines of communication with those people? We at the Nail Hub are very serious about that part of the conversation, and that is why we like to work with companies that we personally know. I can pick up the phone and talk to the owners of any of the companies that we represent at the Nail Hub, and I can ask them any amount of questions. Okay, so that is a huge, huge thing. And last but not least, I want you guys to seriously think about stop buying, start investing. And what I mean is buying to me means just straight consumerism. It means you just see something you like and you buy it without any research or any considerations. When you're investing in something, it means it's a well-researched purchasing decision. It means that you've thought it through, you've looked into the details, and you are an educated consumer. And again, whether you're a professional nail technician buying for yourself and your clients, whether you're a salon owner, whether you're a client of a nail salon, or whether you are a DIYer that just likes to do your own nails and doesn't like going to the salon, this is the same conversation for all of you. Stop just consuming. Start looking at what you are buying. Start looking at what you are putting on yourself and what you're putting on others. And the most important part of this conversation is that the HEMA allergy conversation is just the tip of the iceberg. We have other alternative ingredients that are going to start being used just to get away from the HEMA conversation, but those are just as reactive. So if you start seeing HEA, HPMA, even some of these other things like IPDI, all of these other building blocks that we use inside of nail products, the challenge is that when we start to develop acrylate allergies, it doesn't matter whether it's hydroxyethyl acrylate or hydroxyethyl methacrylate. Once you have an acrylate allergy, you're much more likely to have an allergy across the board. The other thing that's really interesting about this conversation that no one really talks about up until this point, and the reason why I bring this up is I just went to the Light Elegance reunion and saw a great presentation by the owner, Jim McConnell, and also his head chemist, Alyssa. They were talking about medical implants. They were talking about how these acrylate allergies can actually start to affect our personal lives in so many other ways. When we look at things like bone cement or tooth implants or corneal replacements or things that we're all probably going to need when we're older, and maybe even some of us need now, When we have acrylate allergies from nail product, it can actually cause allergies throughout our body that never go away. So when you go to get a crown done on your tooth, or maybe a dental implant, or maybe you need a joint replacement when you're older, those cements that are used in those types of surgeries are also acrylate based. So we don't want to get into a situation where someone's quote unquote simplistic nail driven allergy starts to prevent them from being able to get the medical support that they need in their personal lives. This is a huge, huge part of it. Acrylate allergies are also irreversible as far as we understand. So again, once you are allergic to one component like HEMA, it's very likely that if you were going to go to a dermatologist and get an acrylate panel done, you will be allergic to upwards of 2 to 3 acrylates because of your HEMA allergy. And as far as we understand at this point, there is no going back from that. There's just the possibility of trying to find alternatives that maybe you aren't allergic to now and seeing if that's a long-term strategy for you, but it's going to be dependent on everyone's immune systems and how their bodies react to these things. It's a very scary conversation when we think about the vastness of this problem. And if we think about this prolonging and becoming even more than an issue right now, some of you might have heard, metrics like, oh, well, only, less than 5% of the people who are out there have an actual nail product allergy. But that is actually data based on very few reported allergies, which means that as far as we understand, there's a lot more people that are allergic to these products. And it also doesn't manifest itself until your body is at extreme levels. A lot of times you won't get contact dermatitis or water blisters or itchy red fingers or, your nail plate lifting from your nail bed until it's way, way, way past the turnaround time. We don't want to wait until people are physically manifesting these allergies before we start thinking about this. This is actually something that could cause the death of our industry because our industry is so dependent on acrylates as the components for these polymers that we're building. If we get into a situation where we've already exhausted 7 or 8 different acrylates as the main components of our products and the percentage of people allergic to them starts to increase, this could be something that actually kills our entire nail industry. And again, if it starts to affect the medical industry, you can bet your bottom dollar that governmental regulation is going to come in and start to kill a lot of these things for the sake of bigger stuff than just nail products. So let's address the whole iceberg that is nail allergies, because a lot of you are probably watching this video and by now you're going, oh my gosh, is there any way that I can enjoy nail products safely? Where do I go from here? What do I do now? Well, I want to just conclude this by saying that I want you to fully understand that all nail products, basically all nail products other than nail polish, are affected by this conversation. Because all of our liquid and powder acrylics and our gel products and our polygel products and even our dip systems all rely on acrylate technology, we are exposing ourselves to a huge risk here that could end up being a dead-end road when it comes to products that we can come up with. Based on the way that nail products are developed, we're going to run into a situation where multiple acrylate allergies lead to people being forced to stop doing nails altogether. And again, also that impact on the medical industry as well. Also, you can understand where you are on the danger meter. So if we think about the danger meter in 3 different zones, I would consider the highest part of the danger meter being someone who is completely ignorant to this, whether it be accidental or on purpose, and who is dabbling with generic lamps, generic gels, messing around, isn't taking this seriously, isn't actually looking into these things. And again, part of ignorance is that we don't know what we're doing until we know about it. You watching this video, you are part of the people that can actually change this conversation and make it 100 million times better than what it could be if we don't take this seriously. So high end of the spectrum would be get away from dabbling, get away from mixing and matching, get away from generic lamps, get away from products that you don't know where they're coming from, and start seriously considering what you're putting on yourself or what you're putting on others. In the middle of the range would be, hey, maybe you've looked into very high quality brands like the ones that we represent here at the Nail Hub, but you're still dabbling with cheap, inefficient, generic lamps that really you don't know are fully curing your product to safe levels. Even with a high quality formula, there is risk that comes with not fully curing those products. So we need to understand that it's a 2-part process. Our gels have to be high quality and our lamp has to be high quality because we need to have safe levels of polymerization to prevent any of those reactive chemicals from coming into contact with our bodies. And also application expertise comes in there too, making sure we understand the implications of getting product on the skin, how we cleanse the nails, and all of that stuff, which I will be covering a lot more here on the Nail Hub YouTube channel as we continue this conversation about nail allergies and how we can better mitigate these risks. And on the low end of the spectrum, when it comes to the danger meter, is people who are already getting educated about this, people that have thrown those generic products in the trash and are saying no to bad stuff. If you guys are really taking a stance just as an individual, no matter whether you're doing this on yourself or you're doing this on other people, I really encourage you to start to take those purchasing decisions more seriously. But if you're already doing that, you are definitely on the low end of that danger meter because you are savvy or at least aware of the chemical implications that we're dealing with. You're savvy about the fact that, hey, not every nail lamp is going to cure my gels, and you are doing something about it, which is the biggest part, okay? So remember, even if you don't fully understand the chemistry behind all of these things, even if you can't read a safety data sheet, asking questions and looking for those big red flags is step one to really continuing this conversation. Look for companies that are taking action as well. Align yourself with companies like the Nail Hub or the manufacturers that we represent. People that are taking this conversation seriously are a great advocate for you and are already doing everything that we can to make sure that this does not become a bigger problem. We take our formulas very seriously when we look for companies that we want to get involved in. We look for companies that are, looking at their chemical formulas plus the lamp technology that they're using. One of the greatest examples of that is Light Elegance with their really forward-looking technology with oligomer-based products. Oligomer-based products are products that start with Bis, usually is a great way to see them on SDS sheets. So if you see Bis-HEMA, that is a great way to understand that it is an oligomer-based product, which means that the monomer has already been quote-unquote encapsulated inside of a longer molecular chain that is much more difficult for your body to absorb. And you're already starting off with a safer formula in its liquid form. And then when you cure it, it's curing more efficiently and more completely than if it had a high monomer content. They're looking at both the liquid formula and how they can make that safer, as well as how they can make sure that the lamps are carrying that through to the end result, okay? So this isn't something that you need to avoid nail products altogether. There are already companies that are looking at this conversation and have been looking at this conversation for quite a while and are formulating very, very safe ingredients and very safe systems, okay? We are part of that action as well. Lastly, clients, techs, and DIYers play an important role no matter who you are or what you're doing or how you're involved. If you're a client receiving services, start speaking up about this. Don't just go to any salon. Look for salons who are taking this seriously. Ask those questions about where those salons are getting their products from. Or look for salons that carry the kind of brands that we carry and really start to identify who are the positive outliers in our industry and go after them for your nail services. If you're a tech, obviously you have a responsibility to your own safety as you work with these products, as you file them, as you soak them off, as you touch them on a daily basis. You want to make sure that you're working with things that are safe. And also you want to make sure that the products that you're putting on others who are paying you for their nail care are also getting safe product at the same time and are getting as completely polymerized gel as possible that isn't going to be leaching out, that isn't going to be causing those nail allergies long term. So you play a very, very important role in this as well. And last but not least, even people who are just nail enthusiasts wanting to do their own nails at home, maybe you're young and you're just getting into your nail hobby, maybe you're someone who really isn't into salon services and you like doing your own nail care. Regardless of the situation, you also play a really important role and probably even a bigger one, which is you are exposed to those generic products more frequently. You do have those things at your disposal through different online platforms, and I really want you to seriously start to consider what are you buying, who are you buying it from, and what are you putting on your body, okay? So all of these people have a very, very important role in this conversation. So we at the Nail Hub are going to continue this conversation. We've been kind of fighting against this through our gel nail fundamentals and making sure that that education is out there and also talking about chemistry with for example, Jim McConnell from Light Elegance on all those Chemist Corner videos that I've done. But we're going to continue this conversation, and we are a resource for you. If you have any questions about your nail care, if you have any questions about any of the things that I covered in today's video, please, please, please make sure you comment below this video, get involved, be active, and take, an active role in this conversation yourself, because the more we do to get ahead of this, the better off we're going to be in the long run. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.